Good morning. I'm Jayne Perkins, and most of you know me. Many of you know that Mary Colburn is my sister-in-law, so I've known about the trip to La Romana for a very long time, because she's the one who started it. I've always wanted to go. This was my first chance, and I am so glad that I went. My experiences in La Romana were many and varied. That song has hit me, sorry. Some were wonderful, like getting to know my team members, meditating with Jayne, sharing quarters with the young folks, watching Cecilia sing at the Barrio Church, and watching pride on Robin's face, watching her. Our leader for Days of Girls had her displays ruined by the hurricane. And watching Rowan draw reproductive systems to help her have display cards to explain reproduction systems to the girls in the barrio, bateys and barrios, so that she can teach them about how babies arrive. They were pretty grossed out, these young people. They are not used to that much information. I worked in the pharmacy with my niece Jen, and I got to see her in her absolute favorite place on earth. I'd be up here all day if I talked about everything, so I can only hit on a few things. And some of the things that I'm hitting on don't have much to do with our mission trip. They have more to do with La Romana itself and the whole country. The city of La Romana was so interesting. Beautiful villages, really nice homes, and some rundown shacks you can't believe people live in. And they're all on the same street. There were homes destroyed by the hurricane. Remember, we had a hurricane last fall, so this is really new. And they became a place for trash, which makes cleanup even harder. I loved hearing the ideas of our young folks for helping the Dominican Republic handle trash. Trash is not picked up, and it's everywhere. I think one of the funniest things I saw was motorcycle taxis. The taxi drivers have a shirt that says taxi on their back. And it was interesting to see a woman flag down a motorcycle, jump on the back, and off she went. There were several times of seeing families on motorcycles. It's the transportation in La Romana. Dad's driving and has a little boy in front of him. Mom's on the back, and she has a little boy in front of her. Family of 4 on one little motorcycle. Can you see that happening around here? I don't think so. One time, the bus was stuck in traffic, and I was looking out the window and saw a woman on the sidewalk. As some of you know, I spent years caring for my husband with dementia. I also watched my mom in a nursing home as dementia stole her brain. So I noticed things about this woman that point to that problem. She was so thin, the skin, and just skin and bone. Her hair was white and very unkempt, though she had fashioned a scarf out of a t-shirt, and her hair stuck out of the short sleeves. Her dress hung loosely on her bones. It was short, and she had tried to pad her knees by tying a padded bra to each leg, with the cups covering her bony knees, the straps hanging down her bony legs. And she was standing at the entrance to a clothes shop, hanging onto the grate. She was talking through the grate, gesturing with her hands. We were there for a few minutes because of the traffic, and all I could see were 4 portraits that were leaned against the wall on the other side of this building. It was only 10 or 12 feet wide. And she was talking to them. Seeing so many signs of dementia hit me hard. People on the street just walked past, acting like they didn't even notice her. There was no one for her. No medical care to help her there. It's me hard. It still does. On the bright side, I have to say I felt cared for by our team and our interpreters. One particular interpreter was Evan. I talked to him on the bus going out to the Bate to work on the construction and discovered that he knew my niece, Jen, and he even had a picture of her at work in on one of her mission trips. We had a good day in the Bate, painting a home that had been ruined by the hurricane. A few days later, I was again on construction and with Evan, and we were at the hospital. The hospital had been damaged by the hurricane. It blew the windows out here and there, and the rain came through. So we were doing cleanup in the rooms, and we had done several different things, at this point, Doug and I were in one room, and we were painting. Doug was doing the roller, and I was doing edging. I had most of the edging done, and as far as I could reach, so I asked Evan if there was a ladder so I could reach the rest. He looked at me kind of funny, and he said, "A ladder." And I said, "Yeah, a ladder." He said, "For you?" I said, "Yeah, I need to reach the..." "No, absolutely no. You're not climbing any ladders." He was so sweet and so concerned that I might get hurt. I just really felt cared for. So I turned to Doug and said, "I guess you're doing the edging." The absolute best part of my trip was sitting on the beach and hearing our team speak to their time on the mission. So many wonderful experiences and memories. We have so many incredible people, and our young folks are really amazing. I can't thank this team and this church for such a fantastic experience, and I do hope to do it again. Thank you.
Good morning. How's that? Is that good? All right. My name's Luke Lindholm, and I was lucky enough to travel to La Romana this past February. Going on this mission trip is a commitment, as we just heard from Jayne, and I already knew what it was like after visiting La Romana while in college. There are a million reasons why not to use a week of vacation time to complete hard but meaningful work, and to be honest, I didn't have plans to go if you had asked me at this time last year. However, my girlfriend Sammy expressed her interest in the trip while my mom was going again, so it felt like the perfect opportunity to return. We arrived at Logan, and although JetBlue's systems crashed, we made it on board and were en route. There was a large group going this year, so we were able to prepare for the trip extremely well, and I was excited to return to the Dominican with a motivated team. Traveling to La Romana and completing the work we do is hard, but it's essential that we continue to go. Visiting the Bates and witnessing their living conditions is heartbreaking, and it really does stick with you when you return home. Throughout the week, we saw a lot of sick patients, but we also witnessed strong, proud, and hopeful people. Even though this was my third time going on the trip, something different always seems to grab your attention. This year, I was lucky enough to paint with Evan, one of the head painters for La Casa Pastoral in the Good Samaritan Hospital. Evan shared his story with me as he arrived from Haiti 11 years ago and is now waiting to hear if his visa to work in the United States will be approved. He's had a difficult life, but is extremely excited about the chance to move to the States and even already told me about two of his brothers that are living in Evansville, Indiana. To me, Evan symbolized the great work we can do for this mission. One thing I made sure to bring on this trip this year was my portable speaker. I knew we'd have a few busy nights counting pills and preparing for the next day of work, and music was an easy way to connect with the group. While listening to Van Morrison, Talking Heads, the band, and even a little Hamilton, I remembered a mantra that my dad would say to convince us to help him with yard work. "I'll let you pick the radio station if you come outside," he'd say, "because you have the radio on, it doesn't really feel like work." If you know my dad, I bet you can picture how he'd say this, as my brothers and I would try and hide throughout the house to avoid his request for help. While we disagreed with the statement at a younger age, I realize I've kept the mantra throughout my life. I have music on daily, and it almost feels strange not listening to something while completing my 9-to-5 job or even exercising. That's when I realized how this mantra resonated with my reason for returning to La Romana. The people of La Romana are my radio. While the days are long and hot, it truly doesn't feel like work. Yes, the sodas at lunch every day with natural cane sugar help, but the relationships we create and the assistance we provide are why we need to keep returning to the Dominican. Evan gave me and multiple members of our trip a reason to continue to support this mission, and I plan to help as much as possible in the years ahead. As I said at the start, there are a million different reasons to not commit to a trip like La Romana. So if you're on the fence about going next year, bring your radio and maybe it won't feel like work. Thanks, everyone.
My name's Leigh Pariseau, and this was my first year going on the trip. They gave me a cutoff of 500 words. That was really hard. Let's see how I can do. Yeah. All right, well, I'm a nurse. Thought I'd start with that. I'm one of the few actual medical people that went on this medical mission. And ever since nursing school, I wanted to participate in a medical mission. Acts of service being my primary love language, it just was kind of a thing that I was always interested in, but the opportunity had never actually presented itself, but I found it here. Initially, I planned this year to just support the mission and learn, and support them by ways that did not include actually traveling to La Romana. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to spend my limited vacation time and budget to go work. And I also knew it would stress my family while I was away. I first started helping to organize a fundraiser, and that's when I came to know a lot of people I now call friends. Last year, after the deadlines for committing to the trip had passed, a call came out via Facebook that help was needed. The team was desperately in need of medical professionals. That's when I decided that I did need to go and serve. Service, I discovered, would be more challenging than my job as a prison nurse. I was intellectually prepared for the poverty, but I wasn't prepared for the guilt I felt over my privilege. I was born in a poor family, and a poor American family. No comparison. I was still richer than anybody that we took care of out there. That all being said, it was still very rewarding to be a first-hand witness to our privileged money, time, and energy being used to help people, maybe more in need than anything I've ever seen. It's very different from just writing a check, but please do that if that's your comfort zone, because we need it. This mission, it's more personal when you go. You're more connected. I was able to see and distribute food, medication, medical and construction supplies that our donations paid for. These hands were providing direct medical care, ordering treatments, doing dressing changes, cleaning wounds, being able to provide meds that these people had no access to otherwise. The work was heart-wrenching, infuriating, challenging, interesting, and sometimes joyous. Not as much as it should have been. With little to no health care, I imagine life expectancy is low for Sugarcane Village residents. I met very few baby boomers. It was like a generation kind of missing. However, we did meet some hardy old seniors in their 90s, and even one that was 103. Amazing. One of these older men was crying as I performed a very limited exam on him. He told me through the interpreter that he had walked a long time to our makeshift clinic location, and his knees and hips were hurting too much. There's no knee or hip replacements. He told me that he took blood pressure meds, but his only real concern was his pain. The only strong pain reliever we had was diclofenac, which is a very strong anti-inflammatory, or an NSAID. I know that NSAIDs could damage his aged kidneys, but we all agreed that his quality of life was the priority over his longevity. We didn't give him any blood pressure meds. But we did try to fill his pockets with as much NSAIDs as we could. We wanted to give him everything we could to make him comfortable for as long as possible. The binds of our resources provided only a fraction of what he really needed. A lot of the younger meds said that they do receive these NSAIDs from the sugarcane company's medical vans. This was infuriating, because men can't work with their backs are all but broken. It wasn't compassion, it was greed. There are many reasons this mission is an important part of the First Church ministry. The juxtaposition of the beautiful private beaches and opulent resorts surrounded by poverty, concrete, and yeah, a lot of trash. It changed me. I witnessed the outright oppression of this greed, but the mission also gave me hope. Hope because I know that we and I can do hard things to make this a better world. I find joy and meaning through service, for and with others. Service to the oppressed people of the Dominican bates and barrios, alongside generous and compassionate and hardworking people like Jayne and Luke and Erin, Cecilia, Cece, Pastor Robin, Dr. Mary, and Doug. Danger Doug, Demo Doug, Demolition Doug. Do little, do nothing, do good, darling Doug. And everyone else that I didn't mention, people that aren't even members of this church. I think there were more from other churches than from here, actually. But this really profoundly enriched my soul. This is a multi-ministry mission, and thank you for letting me be part of it.
All right. Yeah, not demo Doug here, but well, for the first time in several years, as you've heard, we actually had smooth travels to the Dominican. No snowstorms, no nothing. So we were able, just to give you a little bit of an idea, we were able to do an overnight flight, as was planned. We arrive about 5:30 in the morning in La Romana, and that means that you hope for some breakfast and you get right to work, because as Robin said, we brought 62 50-pound duffel bags down there, and they all had to be unpacked, reworked, reorganized, and put into 5 days' worth of supplies for the bates. And that was Saturday. So then, after being up all night on the flight. Sunday's a church day with services in the morning and in the evening with a break in the middle to go to a public beach. So that was some little break from our work. There was a lot of pill packing and last-minute organizing that also occurred on Sunday. Then the real work begins on Monday, giving aid, care, and hope to a community that obviously is in dire need of all three. Our focuses this year were the medical clinics, Days for Girls, Bate Bible School, and construction. Our medical team travels to some of the most remote sugarcane villages and provides medical exams, dental care, eye care, glasses distribution, pharmacy services, food and clothing distributions, and even tennis ball and baseball distributions. The medical team served over 600 people in these clinics in the 5 different bâtés in 5 days. These medical clinics are literally life-saving efforts by this amazing team. The medical clinics also include our Bâté Bible School program and the Days for Girls program. Both of these are very important to the youth and the young women of the Bâtés. Days for Girls is a vital program of education and distribution of reusable feminine hygiene kits. This program holds the power to change the lives of young women that are not normally dropping out of school, potentially, especially at least once a month, dropping out of their jobs at least once a month. So it literally turns their world around. The education usually includes sexual education, hygiene, and feminine empowerment. Bâté Bible School is a program with the children of the Bâtés, as was mentioned, not only to free their parents up to get medical attention, but also to show them that we love and care for them as worthy children of God. The time we spent with the children playing games, doing crafts, it uplifts them much more than the single day that we spend with them. Our construction efforts were split between painting and re-roofing hurricane-ravaged homes. These homes from Hurricane Fiona in September still didn't have a roof. It still had multiple generation families living in them with all of their clothes and beds and no roof. So it was a mess. And then in the hospitals, we did renovation work and painting in the Good Samaritan Hospital. The mission just keeps getting more and more powerful as it evolves into new ways that we can help. And it's wonderful to see so many improvements in the area, the results of all of our past efforts. This year's team of volunteers was absolutely amazing. You've heard the stories. They were incredible. They were organized, quick to volunteer, and they worked all day and into the night almost every day. A typical day is breakfast at 7, then lug and load the buses with 20% of our supplies for the week, plus 500 pounds of food every day by 8 a.m. Ship off to the day's work, either in the medical bâté or construction site, return for dinner by 5 or 6, eat dinner and start counting pills and organizing supplies and programs for the following day, usually until about 9 or 10 at night. The team was always truly present, always helping out as a team, as caregivers and workers. It's unbelievable to me how talented and hardworking and fun this team truly is. And that's an every year thing. The people that go to this mission have it in their heart to help others and always come together as a tremendous team. I'd like to continue with a huge thank you to the people of this congregation and the greater community for supporting us wholeheartedly on this mission. Very successful mission this year. Your support is what gets us through the sleepless nights in the dorms. Your strength allows us to dig deep and see those last patients of the day, or to lift that duffel bag one more time. We carry you with us in our hearts and in our hands, and together we are all the ones bringing hope to this region. And to the people that seem to have no reason for hope at all down there, we bring them hope. It's their faith, strength, smiling faces, hugs, and sheer gratitude that give us the desire and the love to continue this vital ministry. Thank you all for being an important part of our La Romana mission team. I hope you all get the same great feeling of accomplishment when you hear these stories about our trip and when you see the wonderful slideshow that's going to be on at coffee hour today. Thank you all.